that is damn good tea. Alright, well, after wasting 10 seconds of your time with that, I had to try to extend it as much as possible. It's going to be a rather short video. Alright, so this is going to be mostly an addendum to something that I discussed in the last chapter of One Piece that I reviewed yesterday. So, if you haven't seen or the review, or if you haven't read chapter 864, you should probably not watch this video because, you know, spoilers and all that shit. Okay, so in the last chapter of One Piece, we got this character. This is the third son of the Charlotte family, Charlotte Daifuku, with his ability of the Hoya Hoya no Mi, which on top of just being a fun fruit to say, Hoya Hoya no Mi, gives him the ability to summon a stand! Oh my god! Okay, I'm gonna stop. It's funny, I didn't make the stand joke. Everyone else did. I'm the only one that didn't. I really should have noticed it. It was very obvious, and I'm really into JoJo's too, so I don't know where it was. Anyway, no, it was a interesting fruit that gave him the ability to rub his tummy and then have a genie pop out, and this genie apparently is coated in armament hockey, or perhaps that's just how it looks, probably is armament hockey, wielding a freaking badass halberd thing, looks like it came right out of Arabian Nights, and then he could attack Sanji, you know, and it was, you know, like swinging its halberd around and using these different kinds of attacks, and it was shouting, and it looked freaking maniacal and very menacing, and, I mentioned in the video that that's kind of an interesting fruit ability to summon another I use the term another form of life, but rather I should say it has the ability to summon creatures. And at the time, I only thought of maybe like, I didn't really think a lot of other devil fruits that were, you know, had the same kind of ability. After sitting down for a while, I realized there were quite a few, and thanks to you guys that actually, you know, reminded me quite a bit of other devil fruits that had this power. I wanted to make a video about this. I wanted to make a video about this very specific select group of Paramecia devil fruit users that are able to summon other creatures in order to do their bidding in one way or another. There really should be subcategories in Paramecia, because the three categories of devil fruits are pretty broad. I mean, we have the Logia, which is the most simple. It just allows you to turn your body into an element. You know, like Eneru can turn into electricity, Ace and Sabo can turn into fire. Even then we have problems, because then we get characters like Dogtooth that can turn into Mochi. I didn't know Mochi was a freaking element of the planet, but whatever. So that's pretty basic. And then, of course, we have Zoans, which do have, like, specific subcategories, like Ancient Zones, like X-Drake can turn into a freaking Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then we have Sengoku and Marco that are mythical zones that can turn into legendary creatures of lore. That's pretty cool. But Paramecia, it's just like every other wacky, crazy power I come up with just gets shoved in this third category. I'm Oda, bitch! I can do what I want! But yeah, so we're going to talk about this today. The ones that get brought up the most, I got a little list here. I'm just going to go down it really quick, I guess. Perona was the big one. People kept saying Perona, so we'll get to her first. But then we have Doflamingo, Kanjuro, Sugar, Robin, Moria, and only in the anime, Magellan. And I'll reference Magellan later, but okay, so here's what, and then Daifuku. Daifuku is the 8th one that we got in this recent chapter. Alright, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about Perona first. So Perona has the ability of the Horo Horo no Mi, which is actually very similar sounding to the Hoya Hoya no Mi, but it allows her to summon a bunch of little ghosts, and allows her to astral project herself as well. Now, these ghosts are kind of goofy and sort of stupid. They just kind of float around and do really funny faces, you know, and shit like that. Now, that might just come down to Perona's own personality. Perhaps if the Horo Horo no Mi was in the possession of somebody with a little bit more of a malicious intent or something like that, the ghosts would appear, you know, in that same vein. They wouldn't be rather goofy, but it seems Perona does have to direct them around at least a little bit. Sometimes she sends her hollows directly toward an enemy to infect them with the negativity. Other times they're just kind of floating around aimlessly, and sometimes even when they hit somebody, it doesn't seem like they intended to. They just kind of randomly pass through somebody, and then they're all resorted to being like, oh my god, I'm as low as a freaking tardigrade. Oh, just kill me now. Oh wait, I can't die because I'm a tardigrade. You know, that kind of shit. But it does seem very clearly that she is controlling these things in one way or another. You know, they can talk, but they can't say anything beyond just horo 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 and their like weird giggles that they do. So they don't seem very intelligent if anything else. So Perona probably gave them very basic orders to follow, and they can't probably do anything much more beyond that. But that's Perona's ability, which is pretty versatile, and just the sheer number of ghosts that she can create. Another one that got brought up a lot, which is honestly kind of interesting to me, was Doflamingo. Now, Doflamingo does have the ability to create something with his Ito Ito no Mi, but it's very clearly something that he has to constantly manipulate. See, the dangerous thing about Dofi that you always have to keep in mind is he has a devil fruit very much like Luffy's, in the sense that when you look at the Gamu Gamu no Mi at first, it kind of seems like a useless fruit. Oh wow, it allows you to turn into rubber. Look at Ito Ito no Mi at first, it's like, oh, you can summon strings, not that useful. The thing is, Doflamingo's had his fruit for so long, he's been able to master it to the point where he's able to do shit with it, and of course he's awakened it. He can do shit with it that no one ever really thought before. So something impossible like stitching up wounds that are inside your body, or in the case of creating a double of himself, which he refers to as the Black Knight, you know, he literally spins his twine and he spins a yarn, to abuse a term that's incredibly cringy. He spins his string together and manages to create a perfect copy of himself that's even able to talk. But it's not like it has its own organs or brain or anything like that. This thing is literally just being manipulated by Dofi like a puppet. It's just that Dofi is so incredibly good at doing this, and he's had this fruit for fucking decades, that he can do it to the point where no one can really tell the difference, that it's not really him, which is a very interesting ability, but I think we've only seen him create one of these at a time, and it very clearly is not like another form of life. It's just a bunch of string compiled together that he has to literally keep moving around in order for it to move and talk. It doesn't have any autonomy on its own, essentially, so it can pretty much scratch that off. Next up is Sugar. Now, I brought up Sugar as sort of like an addendum. Sugar has the ability to use her Hobi Hobi no Mi, which, by the way, the Hobi Hobi no Mi in and of itself makes my freaking brain hurt, because it has like 3 different fucking abilities that don't even connect to each other. It has the ability to turn humans into toys. Okay, that's an interesting devil fruit of power. Oh, no. It also has the ability to erase the memories of everybody that has ever come in contact with that person. It doesn't have the ability to erase their memories, the ones you're turning to toys. They keep their memories. It changes the memory of everyone else that has ever met them, as if this is like one of the only devil fruits that has like a mass effect on the people that aren't even directly affected by the fruit. It's weird. And then the third ability is it gives you eternal youth, because Sugar's 22 years old and she's totally lolicon, you know? But anyway, yeah, she has the ability to turn humans into toys, and these are once again kind of remote controlled by Sugar, except they still maintain their own thoughts. It's just that they can't go against what Sugar says. So Sugar will usually initiate a contract with them. She'll turn them into a toy, and then she'll be like, you know, obey the rules of me and all of the Doflamingo officers, and you can't talk to your family, you can't tell anyone who you were originally, and that's like part of the contract. And so they could still have a little bit of their own autonomy, and she is essentially creating another form of life in this sense, toy life, you know, giving, you know, this power, you know, maybe you know, because I don't know if she can control which toy they get turned into, but they're able to move around despite not having any muscles or anything like that, so I guess that would be something. But yeah, it's still something that she has to actually tell them what they can or cannot do before they'll actually do it. Otherwise, she has no control over them. They can just wander around and do whatever if she doesn't initiate a contract, as we saw with Kyrios, as we saw with the Tin Soldier. You know, he escaped the contract, so he was able to go around and do whatever he wanted. Sugar really had no control over him. So this is a rather dangerous ability in that if you do the contract, it's just more of like remote controlling, but if you don't, then they can actually rebel against you in a sense. So that's the way her ability works. Not exactly the same way as Daifuku. Another one that people mentioned, and I thought that it was kind of interesting to talk about anyway. I'm going to be doing a discussion video on Robin very shortly, but even Robin does have the ability to clone herself in some respects. Her original ability, the Hana Hana no Mi, just allows her to sprout limbs, right? So she can sprout arms and legs, and she can sprout eyes and ears for reconnaissance purposes. Oda even said she can spawn her jugglies if she really needs to. I don't know why she would need to do that, but she could. Anyway, after the time skip, she can even clone herself. She did this with when she was splitting up the fight between Jinbei and Luffy. She could create a clone of herself that just disappeared. She did it when they were fighting the New Fishman Pirates, and she did it when they were on Greenbit. And so she was trapped underground with the Tontatas, and she had to get a message to Law, who was on the surface. So she used this ability to summon like a clone of herself in the sand that just told told Law what was going on and then disappeared. Now, this is interesting, because is it actual cloning? As in, is it's like Naruto's Kagebushi no Jutsu, where they're like the same person and they know how they know that they're not real, and they know they're just clones and that they're gonna disappear, but at the same time they still don't ever attempt to go against their master or anything like that? Or is it literally just like, Robin has to control it, remotely. Like, she has to actually control how it works. I would honestly say it's closer to cloning. I would say it is something very similar to Daifuku, in the sense that, you are creating something else that apparently acts a little bit autonomous. It's just that it's a copy of you, so you're going to work well together, because it's basically like creating an exact copy of yourself. Robin was able to create a clone to fight new fishermen pirates, and like they were able to take down two at the same time, so it's like they knew what to do, and I think that makes more sense. You always have to question in that regard. The same thing with Naruto's Kagebushin is, don't the clones realize that they're just clones and they're gonna disappear, and they like rebel against Naruto, like, fuck you, I'm the real one? There was a filler episode, I think, where that happened, but that was the only time it was ever brought up in the story. But yeah, so Robin's is essentially like cloning. It's probably getting closer to Daifuku, the one that's the most closest. Moria is not much of anything different. His Doppelman is still a shadow that he just basically gives simple orders to, like, protect me from Straw Hat, or fight this thing, or attack this particular person. With the case of the brick bats, it can turn into, doesn't seem to have its own intelligence, doesn't seem to be able to really speak on its own outside of just very simple, like, laughs and gurgles and shit like that. So I would put this in the same class as, like, Dofi's string clone, the Black Knight, or with Perona's ghost to an extent. Nothing more really beyond that. Then we get to the last one on this list. Well, no, there's Kanjuro too, but we'll just cover Magellan really quick. He had an ability called Poison Cloud, which I think was also like Poison Spider. And basically it was an ability that shrouded the entire area in this poisonous mist that would slowly drain away the energy from the person he was fighting. And it was causing Luffy to get all dizzy, and he couldn't see straight, and he eventually passed out, and then Magellan just, could attack further. Now, in the manga, it was just a simple poisonous fog technique that just happened to take the appearance of this weird spider. There was nothing beyond that. It was just a fog that took a solid form. In the anime, for whatever reason, they stated that Magellan's line was basically like, "This poison fog is part of me. It lives and breathes." So, and then you have a scene with Luffy trying to disperse it. I think Luffy used, like, Gum Gum Fusen, and then he, like, exhaled all his air to try to blow the fog away, and it just kind of came back, because it's, like, emanating from this living poison fog spider that he created. Since it's just anime only, I gotta say it's not canon. Maybe that they just added that in there because they needed a few more minutes left with the episode. The equivalent of me sitting here and taking a big swig off the iced tea, Got to extend that episode out a little bit. So, yeah, just say Magellan it's part of his body, and so Luffy tries to fight it for longer than in the manga, and so we can get to the credits, because we're running out of animation budget, that kind of shit. Maybe that was the case, but I just wanted to mention that because some people did bring it up. Okay, finally, the one that is the most similar to this, except it's kind of done more for comic relief. You know who it is? It's not Magellan, it's not Doflamingo, it's not anybody like that. No, it's fucking Kanjuro. Kanjuro has the ability to draw anything that his imagination could possibly come up with and then bring it to life. We don't know the name of his fruit, and of course he doesn't think it's a fruit. He just thinks it's a magical sorcery powers he can do. His magical samurai powers. Hoo-yah! But the funny thing is, it's mostly played for laughs because Kanjuro is fucking horrible at drawing. So everything he draws is barely able to maintain its original purpose. He draws a sparrow barely able to fly. He draws the crawling dragon and it's barely able to crawl, and it's just in horrible pain until its task is completed. But if Kanjuro had decent drawing skills, and like I said, if his fruit was in the hands of somebody a little bit more malicious and they had the ability to draw something badass, it could be something along the lines of Daifuku's Hoya Hoya fruit, where they could draw a fucking badass army that can come to life and attack with weapons and shit. And in a sense, the creatures that Kanjuro creates do have kind of a level of autonomy or their own awareness. They're aware of how much goddamn pain they're in, for one. And then, of course, I think the name was Ryunosuke, was the name of the dragon that he created that brought the Straw Hats to the top of Zoan. And it was that truly heart-wrenching, emotional, Oscar Award-winning moment of the year when he finally brings them to the top and all the Straw Hats are cheering it on. And it finally gets to the top, and then he vanishes, and then his face is in the sunset, and Robin leaves flowers for him, and it's just like, you're always in our hearts, Ryunosuke. And it's just like, it seems like the dragon itself had empathy for everybody, like, I'm okay, I'm in a better place now. But yeah, Kanjuro and Daifuku's ability rather seem the same in that case. The only difference is that Daifuku literally summons this genie from himself. Now, another way I thought of this is that it could possibly be a mythical Zoan. The only issue here is that Daifuku himself doesn't actually turn into the creature, which that's a staple of every single Zoan. Every Zoan we've seen, regardless of if it's an ancient Zoan or a carnivorous Zoan, as with Lucci, or a mythical Zoan, each and every one of them actually involve the person that ate the fruit turning into the creature, the animal. The only way that I could possibly see around this is if it's a mythical genie Zoan. What do genies usually do? What are genies in mythical, in a mythical standing, in mythology? Genies are these creatures that live in lamps and that they come out in a puff of smoke and they grant their user wishes, whoever finds their lamp. Except for Mr. Popo in Dragon Ball Z, who is a genie, but we don't talk about him very much. Oh. But anyway, yeah, that's what a genie is. So I would hazard that perhaps you couldn't have a genie without having a lamp. And in this case, what is the lamp? That is the person that actually eats the fruit becomes the lamp itself, becomes the actual container for this genie. That's kind of stretching it a bit, I understand, but it goes along with the story a little bit. I mean, mythical Zoans are already so rare, they might be able to bend the rules a little bit. But with that not being the case, I still would mostly put my bets on Paramecia. It's just in a very select category. A select category of Paramecia fruits that are able to summon other beings. And then even in a more limited group from that, those beings themselves having a little bit of autonomy. Daifuku's genie was able to attack Sanji without any direction from Daifuku whatsoever. In fact, Daifuku was kind of very uninterested in the whole fight and just kind of went on doing its own thing, talking to Pudding, while the genie was flying out and attacking. And the genie was able to speak and attack Sanji, registering him as an enemy, and apparently naming these attacks. Maybe the genie himself came up with the attack names, not Daifuku. So along with him, Kanjuro and Robin are the only ones that I can actually think of that summon a being, and that being can actually think for itself a little bit, being able to speak, being able to enact on its own, with a few limitations, because when Robin and Kanjuro's case, the existence of the summoning is actually limited. Kanjuro's can't last forever, neither can Robin's. Whenever Robin clones herself, it's always for a brief amount of time, so maybe there's a time limit on that. But in the case with Daifuku, that might be the one the thing that actually makes it different, makes it unique from all the other devil fruits that are capable of this, is that when the genie comes out, it can stay out for as long as Daifuku desires it. Sort of like, you ever read My Hero Academia? Sort of like Tokoyami's Dark Shadow. How Tokoyami is his own character, but then Dark Shadow comes out, and Dark Shadow is this other, it has its own thoughts and emotions, and it can behave on its own. It's just more unwieldy depending on the time of day, but Tokoyami can give it simple requests and orders, but it can really think for itself. That's probably the better way of thinking about it. In fact, it's even more similar, because Tokoyami's Dark Shadow comes out of his, belly button region. It's the same thing with Daifuku. But yeah, I just wanted to really just talk about these devil fruit users, rather unique. I might go about and look at other devil fruits, like other Paramecia fruits that have similar categories, and talk about those separately. I don't know, how would you guys feel about separate video categories? I mean, other YouTubers have done this, that's why I was kind of hesitant to do them, but separate videos on, like, here's a discussion on Paramecias, and then here's a discussion on Zoans, and Ancient Zoans, and Mythical Zoans, and stuff like that. Would you be interested in that? Let me know. Comment below. Also, what time is it? 8 o'clock. I might be doing a live stream tonight, might be a little bit later, so if you want to head, just a heads up for that, because I know some people are always asking me, what, is there a schedule for your streams? There's really not. I just kind of do them whenever I feel like it, but we might get one later tonight. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. Got stuff below. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Yeah.